Tomorrow, our summer miniseries Deadly Second Chances returns with part 4, and this one is soaked in blood and heartbreak. But before we get there, let's rewind and meet Loralee Hardy, misunderstood teen, victim of abuse, and soon to be known as the Prom Queen Killer. Tonight, we're bringing you the complete miniseries by Rob Fields, a full ride through trauma, black magic, and high school horror. It starts with heartbreak, spirals into revenge, and explodes in supernatural rage. Loralee was brought back from the dead once. Now Hellweaver's giving her a second chance to do it all differently. But when your life is built on blood and betrayal, is redemption even possible? So, turn down the lights, grab your tiara, and make sure you're subscribed, because the Prom Queen Killer is back. Because the Prom Queen Killer is back, and she's got a second chance to slay. Homecoming Queen Killer, Part 1 of 5, by Rob Fields. Prologue. The lightning cracked on the second Saturday night in October as the convertible sped along a brightly lit, seemingly deserted 4-lane highway. A group of high school students were on their way to one particular destination. Britt Speedman, riding shotgun, glanced over her shoulder. "Are you sure it's really in there?" "How many times you gonna ask me?" Deborah Lehman snapped from the back seat. "Yes, it's fucking in there. Yes, yes, and yes again." "Sounds like someone's on their time of the month," August Boldman muttered next to Deborah. "Eat me," Deborah retorted. August smirked. "I'll be glad to." Deborah flipped him off as the convertible finally came to the fence that surrounded Greenlawn Cemetery. Arnie Razor Rathman hit the brakes and swerved the car so that it lined up with the main entrance. Then he sped through the open gates and followed Deborah's directions. It took Razor nearly 5 minutes to drive through the vast burial grounds before they finally stopped at their destination. When Razor turned off the motor, he and Britt got out. Razor pulled his seat forward to let the 4 riding in back get out. When skinny Melizan Lapala staggered in getting out, Razor caught her as she fell into his arms. When their eyes met, he looked at her blankly before easily lifting her out of the car and placing her on her feet. Thanks, Melizan said uneasily, looking up at the hulking giant. Razor nodded once. Then they caught up with the rest of the group. Deborah led them through several rows of tombstones before they saw the one that would easily get anyone's attention. A lone grave, spray-painted with the words, Prom Queen Killer. Deborah knelt down in front of the tombstone. "Loralee Hardy," she managed to say. "Didn't you used to date her?" Melizand asked. Deborah glanced her way. "More like we fucked. We never went on dates." She stood and faced her friends. "I still can't believe what Loralee did in Strickfield last spring." She pointed to the tombstone. "This right here. Loralee killed a lot of students on prom night at Strickfield High School. Even a few teachers." Britt raised an eyebrow. "You know, I heard Strickfield High had another prom over the summer." Deborah sighed. "Yeah, Strickfield High is now known for both the prom from hell and prom night of the dead. It was the prom from hell where Loralee Hardy made her impact, though. Her family died over 2 years ago in a horrible car crash here in Shore City. She lost her older brother Aiden and her mother Ridge. Loralee survived but was hurt badly. She had to have several surgeries, including the metal plate put in her head. Feeling guilty about what happened to her family, She killed a few doctors. She was taken all the way to Erie City Asylum afterwards. That's where she had to go through lots of therapy. Loralee got out and moved to Strickfield. She found herself a new girlfriend and was living off insurance money from when her dad had died. Loralee developed multiple personality disorder to keep her family alive. She could carry on conversations with her mother and became Aiden to kill anyone who got close to Loralee herself. Loralee went to prom and would go on a murder spree from there. 2 of the senior class prom queen candidates finally stopped her insanity. One of them was from the ultra-rich Mirren family. In fact, Taylor Mirren herself saw to it that Loralee was buried here and paid for the funeral. Guess it didn't take too long for people to learn Loralee was buried here. A girl stepped forward. Wow. We're really looking at the grave of a legend. Deborah turned to her. I wouldn't call Loralee a legend, Valinda. August wasn't so sure. When people know you all over Ohio and surrounding states, I think it's safe to say Loralee Hardy is definitely a legend. He pointed to the tombstone. I rest my case. Then Valinda Bright turned to Melisande as the lightning flashed again. You know, guys, I'll bet you she could bring Loralee back from the grave. Melisande shook her head. Valinda, no. It was no secret Melisande led a goth lifestyle. She was pale and always wore dark clothing. Her makeup made her look ghoulish, yet beautiful. Yeah, Melisande, I heard you can make things happen, August said. Look, I just dabble in black magic a little, she admitted. I never really made anything happen. Not big, anyway. Valinda put her arm around her. I think you should perform the spell. It's October, which means it's Halloween season. Plus, it's stormy out here. Come on, babe, what could it hurt? Aside from Deborah, the others urged Melisande to perform the resurrection spell. Figuring none of her past spells ever caused serious harm, she agreed to do it. She pulled her smartphone out of her jacket and found the resurrection spell. Then she motioned for the others to step back. Melisande recited the words. The more she read, the louder she became. When she finished, she faced the others. Guess we wait and see what happens. Just then, the rain started coming down fast. They went back to Razor's car and got in. He started the engine and closed the roof. From within a dark place, 2 eyes opened. Unfortunately, their owner only saw total darkness. Then the eerie red aura glowed around the body, causing it to become fully restored almost instantly. After the glowing stopped, Loralee Hardy gasped her first breath upon being resurrected. She pushed up and felt her hands being stopped suddenly. Then she remembered what had happened in the Strickfield High School gymnasium at the prom. Taylor Mirren and Cheryl Blint had killed her. Mainly it was Cheryl who had stabbed her to death, but Taylor was also involved. Loralee understood. She was in a coffin, likely buried. She groaned and pushed against the padded ceiling with grim determination and screamed when the lock broke. She pushed harder to force the lid open. Dirt poured fast into the coffin, but Loralee refused to be a prisoner to it any longer. Loralee gasped with happiness as she finally escaped her grave and was standing on the wet grass in her bare feet. Her funeral clothing was her prom dress from that night. She didn't care about that at the moment. All she knew was that she needed to leave this cemetery and see where exactly she was. Loralee walked around the Green Lawn Cemetery. The wind and rain felt wonderful against her skin. The lightning cracked and revealed a guy urinating in some bushes nearby. He had just finished and was about to head back to the convertible when he saw her standing before him. "Whoa! Where did you come from?" the guy asked. Loralee smiled sweetly. "It ain't where I'm coming from. It's where you're going." The guy looked confused. "Huh?" Loralee still smiled when she easily exposed her breasts, putting him under her spell. Then she walked into him so they could kiss. The two of them sucked tongues hot and heavy. Soon the guy groaned hard and tried pushing Loralee away, but he felt her supernatural strength. In fact, her teeth were easily cutting through the guy's tongue. Soon she had his entire tongue in her mouth when she withdrew, showing it to him before dropping it. The guy was practically vomiting blood as he staggered away. Loralee covered her breasts and easily walked until she was in front of him. "Honey, you gave me your heart." She punched him hard in the stomach, reached into his rib cage, and pulled his bloody heart from him. When the man fell to her feet, she laughed and dropped his heart. She saw a faint red light nearby and moved through the tombstones until she saw the sky blue convertible. Loralee gasped when she beheld the skinny goth girl getting out of the car and opening an umbrella. The girl turned to look in the car. "I don't see August anywhere. I'll go find him." Loralee couldn't let these people find their friend. She returned to August's body and found his smartphone, easily accessing it by holding it in front of his face. She opened the texting app and saw many new messages from someone called Razor. She replied and said he met a girl jogging in the cemetery and not to wait for him. Razor argued briefly, but she finished the conversation with a middle finger emoji. Loralee returned to see the skinny goth girl again. She shook the rain from the umbrella before getting back in the car. Loralee saw the varsity jacket the driver wore and the bumper sticker when they pulled away. "I'm back in Shore City," she realized. "I can have a completely new start here. Those people go to Shore City East High School. Well, that's where I'm going too." Loralee hugged herself knowing she had fallen in love with the skinny goth girl. She made a vow right then and there to find her and win her heart. She also vowed to kill anyone who got in her way. Melisande walked into the house after being dropped off. Almost immediately, her parents were all over her. "Kinda late, ain't ya?" her dad demanded. "I'm 18 years old," Melisande protested. "And still living under our roof," her mom corrected her. Her dad pointed right at her. "That's right. That means you do whatever we say. And for starters, get that satanic clothing off your body and put something decent on." Melisande tightened her fists. "What is your problem? I'm not hurting anybody." "You ain't gonna keep dressing all in black and reading those satanic books, young lady," her mom scolded. "Your father and I don't know where you went wrong, but you will know your place here." Melisande groaned and marched right upstairs. Soon she came back down with her backpack. "I ain't dealing with this shit. I'm gonna go stay with Valinda." Before her parents could move to keep her inside, she was quickly out the door and gone. Loralee stole a car from someone who came to Green Lawn Cemetery to pay his respects to his deceased wife. She hopped into the car, motor running, and caught up to the convertible. Seeing the skinny goth girl was dropped off, she hid the car and crept to the girl's house. Through an open window, she had heard everything. Loralee entered the house and grabbed 2 knives from a kitchen drawer. She tightened her jaw the same way her brother Aiden did in life and marched into the living room. The girl's parents began yelling at Loralee now. Loralee screamed and buried 1 knife in the mother's throat. When the father rushed at her, she opened up his throat with her other knife. She took the knife back from the mother's neck and kicked her husband into his recliner. Loralee sprang onto him and purred softly as she repeatedly stabbed him with both knives. She was a bloody mess when she was finished. Then Loralee heard the mother barely breathing and stood to face her. Without mercy, Loralee grabbed the older woman's hair and forced her down onto her back. Then she knelt down in front of the couch and went into a stabbing frenzy. When Loralee was finished, she stood up and felt the blood running down her flesh. "You will never treat that lovely girl like that ever again," Loralee murmured. Knowing the goth girl wasn't returning home tonight, she went back out into the storm with the knives. The heavy rain both washed her and the blades clean. Walking over a small bridge, she dropped the knives into the water. Loralee had lost the goth girl for the moment, but she knew she would find her again. Sunday afternoon. Melisande had been working at Coffee Corner since 5 a.m. Her shift was supposed to be over at 1 p.m. Her manager, Trent, specifically stated employees couldn't leave until their relief had arrived. Britt Speedman was working with her and came out of the storeroom. "Jesus, Suzette still ain't here yet?" "She called off yesterday, too." Melisande sighed. "She'll probably call off today, too. She's never dependable, and Trent still keeps her on the schedule." Britt laughed. "If we had tits like hers, we'd be getting special favors from Trent, too. But we don't. So we don't." Just then, Deborah Lehman and Valinda Bright entered the coffee house. "Hey! Just the 2 girls I want to see," Deborah cheered. "I'll take a caramel dream, hot, with almond milk." "Same, but with oat milk," Valinda added. Melisande began making the drinks as Britt rang the orders. "I have it on good authority that you 2 are both nominees for Homecoming Queen," Deborah gushed. Melisande wasn't impressed. "People actually voted for me? You guys know I hate doing school functions, including dances." She shook her head. "I decline." "What?" Valinda exclaimed. "Come on, Melisande." Melisande shook her head again. "You all know Principal Ghastly's been riding my ass since freshman year. I'm not a troublemaker, but he gives me shit just because I'm goth. In other words, he'll make sure I don't get anywhere near the crown." She sighed. "And I don't have a date." "Prom Saturday," Deborah noted. "There's still plenty of time for someone to ask you, which will happen." Melisande raised her finger. "Yeah, and that'll only be because all the choice stuff has been taken." "Not true," Britt murmured. "We can always go together like we did for prom." When Melisande handed Deborah and Valinda their drinks, Trent came out of the back and pointed to Britt. "Your shift's over. Leave." "What about Melisande?" Britt asked. Trent waved her off. "Mind your fucking business. Leave." Then he pointed to Melisande. "You're closing tonight. Suzette ain't coming in." Melisande looked disappointed. "I opened, and I got shit to do." Trent looked angry. "Yeah, and that's being here until close. Talk back to me again, and I'll write you up again." Melisande wanted to quit, but she needed the money. She was glad Valinda was letting her stay at her place, but she wasn't going to be a freeloader. Trent pointed to Britt. "Leave, now! Or you can stay left." "I'll be okay, Britt," Melisande told her. The three girls said goodbye to Melisande as they left. Then Trent said, "It's just you. All the closing jobs are done before closing. If not, you'll stay here till they are done. Off the clock." Trent returned to the back where Melisande knew he'd sit in the office on social media or texting people. Thankfully, it was Sunday, so it was slow and steady. Soon, an attractive girl came in and approached the counter. Melisande moved to the register to take her order. Loralee Hardy had been optimistic about finding the skinny goth girl. Now that she had, she was going to have her time with her. "I think I'll order a caramel dream. It's our most popular drink," the girl said in a soft, velvety voice. After Loralee paid for it, she took in every inch of the girl serving her. Her heart was pounding as she longed to make love to her. The girls talked about general things. "You sound down, babe," Loralee observed. "What's wrong?" I'm getting nominated for Homecoming Queen. Why? I mean, would you want to see me with the homecoming crown on my head?" The girl finished with the drink and handed it to her. Loralee tasted the drink. "Absolutely." The girl gawked. "Are you serious?" Loralee nodded. "Very. If I may say so, you're very beautiful." The girl gasped slightly. Then they talked more. Just then, a skinny loser came out of the back looking angry. "You're here to work, not be lazy and socialize with customers." The girl was mad. "Yeah, you can talk, Trent," she pointed to the back. "All you do is sit in that office. You've never even come out here when we're slammed." "Shut up or you're fired right now," Trent threatened. "Fire me then," the girl retorted. "Then you can work all by yourself. We both know it would kill you if you ever had to do any work." Trent scowled before turning and storming back to the office. When the girl put her hand on the counter, Loralee put her hand on hers and gave her a look of approval. "You just became my hero." She glanced at the name tag. "Melisande?" She smiled. "And you are?" "Loralee Alexandra." Melisande worked as Loralee kept her company, making time go by fast. When closing time came, Loralee waited for her outside. When she was finally finished with her long day, Melisande wanted to spend even more time with Loralee. When they left the coffee corner together, Melisande never cared that Loralee was holding her hand as they walked. Monday morning. Melisande and Valinda walked into Shore City East High School and met their friends at their usual meeting place near the cafeteria. After a time, they turned and walked to the gymnasium for a big assembly. The group went in and sat in the senior section. Deborah pointed to the older man on the floor. "Principal Ghastly's gonna announce the homecoming queen candidates." "Fuck him," Melisande muttered. Principal Theodore Gastor finally spoke. "All right, students, knock off the talking so we can get to the homecoming queen nominations." Principal Gaster made a mechanical speech about homecoming before he finally made the eagerly awaited announcement. "And this year's nominees are Britt Speedman, Daphne Ridley, Blake Zerner, Janice Ingalls, Reese Claiborne, and finally," he seemed less enthused as he announced, "Melisande LaPaula." Principal Gaster gave her a look as if asking her, why even bother? He turned his attention back to the student body and made a few more announcements before dismissing them to first period. As Melisande walked to second period, she was suddenly grabbed and her mouth covered. She struggled to break loose as she was pulled into an empty classroom. Her captor released her and pulled the door shut. Melisande turned and gasped when she saw Ali Prinz, who was quite intimidating, standing at 6'2" and muscular. Melisande guessed Ali intimidated most everybody at Shore City East High. "Turn and face me, you Satanist skank." Melisande turned to see Rhys Claiborne sitting on the teacher's desk. In truth, she feared Rhys more than Ali. It was no secret Rhys came from money. Some students wondered if she had the kind of money the Mirren family had. It was also no secret that Rhys got whatever she wanted, whenever she wanted. Melisande took in Rhys's platinum blonde hair, her hourglass figure, and her surgically enhanced upper body. But it was Rhys's eyes that burned with a fire that chilled her own blood. Rhys pointed right at her. "Drop out of the running for homecoming queen right now." She looked at Melisande with disgust. "Why a fucking skank like you would even get any votes whatsoever is beyond me." Rhys smiled. "Oh, and I believe Ali wants to give you her personal endorsement." Melisande lifted her hands in front of her. "Okay, I'll drop out. I don't want any trouble." Rhys looked angry now. "I really don't give a fuck what you want." Ali flashed her sinister smile. "I'm gonna enjoy breaking you in half." Before Ali could grab her, Melisande dropped to her knees and crawled right through Ali's legs. She sprang to her feet and escaped to her second-class period. Monday afternoon. After school, Melisande and Britt were an hour into their shift at Coffee Corner when Loralee Alexandra walked in. Melisandre's spirits lifted immediately. "What can I get you, Loralee?" she asked. "Another caramel dream, please," Loralee answered. "Coming right up." As Melisande made the drink, Trent came out of the back. He pointed right at Loralee. "You ain't staying here and distracting my employees again. Leave, now." "She ordered a drink," Melisande protested. Trent pointed right at her. "Then make her drink to go." He looked at Loralee again. "You ain't staying here." As Melisande started to protest, Loralee raised her hand. "It's okay. I'll come and get you at the end of your shift." "Which will be closing again," Trent informed Melisande. "Suzette called off again?" Britt groaned. Trent turned to her. "Exactly. You will be leaving at your regular time." Trent waited for Loralee to take her drink and leave. When she did, he gave Melisande a mean look before returning to the office. "Fuck you, Trent," Melisande said under her breath. Monday evening. Britt remained behind after all. She managed to convince Trent to let her switch with Melisande so she could leave with Loralee. Britt knew the real reason Trent hated Melisande was because he kept trying to get dates from her after she was hired, but she rejected him time and time again. When Trent knew she wouldn't budge, he turned on her. Trent came out and told Britt to take out the trash, which was already at the back door. Britt came and grabbed the bags. She went out into the darkness and to the dumpster. After dumping the bags in, she turned to see an Amazon of a girl directly in front of her. "Still running for homecoming queen, bitch?" Ali Prince murmured. When Britt saw Rhys Claiborne leaning against the fence, she knew what was about to happen. When Rhys nodded to Ali, she grabbed Britt and punched her hard in the face to send her falling to the asphalt. "You have carte blanche," Rhys told her muscle girl. Britt tried to fight back, but there was little she could do as Ali took full advantage of her carte blanche. When Britt was finally spitting up blood, Rhys nodded to Ali. Then the two girls left, leaving Britt badly beaten and crying. Britt groaned as she pulled herself back to her feet. When her left side was hurting, she guessed that she had cracked ribs. She focused on getting back inside to call the police and report her assault. Unfortunately, the back door was now closed and locked. After knocking a few times, she looked out the parking lot and saw Trent in his car, leaving. fucking lazy bastard," Britt muttered. "I should get your fucking pay for closing up by myself." Remembering she had keys, she reached into her pocket for them. She was suddenly grabbed and thrown on her back. Now she prayed Ali hadn't returned for another workout. "Leave me alone!" Britt yelled. Suddenly her attacker sat on her and throttled her neck with one hand. Britt saw the gleaming knife raised in the other. She tried to fight but was severely weakened from her previous attack. Britt groaned when the girl covered her mouth and drove the blade deep into her stomach. Britt's eyes opened wide when she saw and recognized the girl who stabbed her repeatedly. Unfortunately for Britt, she wouldn't live to reveal the girl's identity. An hour later, Melisande returned to Coffee Corner. She had forgotten her smartphone and remembered where she'd left it. She unlocked the front door and entered to see the alarm hadn't been set. "Britt, you here?" Melisande called out, finding her phone. Then she saw a strange shape in the middle of the cafe area and turned on the lights. Melisande dropped her keys and phone and covered her mouth as she screamed. Britt's slain bloody body was nailed to the back wall in a crucifixion pose, and just to her left were words written in Britt's blood. "For you, my love." Tuesday morning. Melisande LaPala was still shaken up with the events of the previous night. She didn't want to be left alone and came to school with Valinda Bright, whom she was staying with at the moment. When the girls arrived at Shore City East High School, their circle of friends were waiting for them. "You okay?" Arnie Razor Rathman asked Melisande. "You look terrible." She gulped at Razor's intimidating size. I didn't get much sleep. I kept having nightmares about Britt. And I even slept with her," Valinda added. "Who could have killed Britt?" Deborah Lehman asked. "And why?" Valinda pointed in a direction. "Maybe it was those two bitches." Razor wasted no time and approached Reese Claiborne and Ali Prinz. He was about to grab Reese, but Ali quickly intercepted him. "Back off, motherfucker," Ali warned, "or you're gonna deal with me." "You don't scare me, Butch." Razor pointed past Ali to Reese. "I know you had something to do with Britt's death." Reese put a hand on Ali's shoulder. "I got this." When Ali moved, Reese smiled sweetly. "I completely understand your brains are in your ass, so I'm telling you, you won't be pinning that cunt's murder on me. Ali and I were arriving at Club Creole at the time of this murder. I got plenty of witnesses, including the doorman." She waved him off. "Now go on. Go back to your friends before Ali kicks your ass on general principles." Ali shoved Razor. "You heard her. Fuck off." Razor shoved her back. "You fuck off." Then Reese murmured, "Pulp his ass, Ali." Ali punched Razor in the face. Razor returned the favor. A crowd gathered around to watch the two hulks fight. "Stop this immediately!" Ali and Razor both stopped. Ali got off Razor. Principal Theodore Gastor marched right up to Razor as he got up. "I should suspend you right now." "Reese and Ali started it," Melisande protested. Principal Gastor turned and pointed at her. "I wasn't talking to you, young lady. You know what? Maybe I should suspend you long enough to keep you away from that homecoming queen crown." Melisande felt her anger rising fast. Principal Gastor gave her a look that challenged her to defy his authority. He could see her fists tightened and her face reddening. "You won't do a damn thing, Miss LaPala," Principal Gastor taunted. Then he tightened his own fists. "Get out of my face and get to class. now, or you can forget about ever coming back to this school again." Principal Gaster didn't see Reese raising her middle fingers to the group and blowing them a kiss. They knew, even if Principal Gaster did see Reese, he would have looked the other way. Razor was very upset now. "Why don't you just retire, you old motherfucking fart?" When Principal Gaster pointed right at him, Razor pointed back. "Go ahead, suspend me, I dare ya." Ali wanted to jump at Razor again, but Reese shook her head slowly. When Principal Gaster didn't say anything more, the group turned away and went to class. Melisande was still seething with anger as she sat down. At the same time, she was happy Razor stood up to Principal Gaster. How many times had Gaster lashed out at her? How many times had she wanted to kill him for it? And then, Melisande couldn't believe it. Loralee Alexandra from the coffee corner walked into her classroom and handed her schedule to the teacher. Melisandre's day got even better when Loralee was assigned the empty seat next to her. The girls smiled at one another when Loralee sat with her. During class, nobody saw Loralee or Melisande holding hands as the teacher gave the lecture. Loralee was also in Melisandre's second period. Then the girls wouldn't meet up again until lunch. At the appointed hour, Melisande waited for Loralee. As Loralee entered the cafeteria, she saw Deborah Lehman and backed off. Loralee dated her for a few months prior to the major accident on the freeway in Shore City that killed her brother and her mother. In fact, Deborah was the reason that Loralee had her meltdown that had caused the accident. Loralee recalled being madly in love with Deborah. The two of them were practically inseparable when they realized their feelings. Then her homophobic older brother Aiden found out about them and targeted Deborah, eventually beating her to the point where she was hospitalized. Aiden admitted this to Loralee when the family was out shopping. Loralee's hatred for Aiden and knowing what he had done to Deborah made her snap. She attacked Aiden, which eventually caused her mother, Ridge, to lose control of the car on a busy freeway and have the accident that killed Aiden and Ridge and severely injured Loralee. She was taken to Shore City Municipal Hospital to undergo extensive emergency surgeries. One procedure resulted in her getting a metal plate in the side of her head. Loralee had been asleep for many days. When she had finally awakened, Deborah was there at her bedside. At first, Loralee was happy to see her, even through the remnants of the sedatives. Deborah was glad that Loralee would live. However, Deborah noted she wasn't there to rekindle their relationship. In fact, Deborah was there for closure between the two of them. When the girls argued about it, Loralee's unstable emotional state allowed her to overcome the sedatives even more. Deborah explained being beaten within an inch of her life by Aiden wasn't worth a relationship with her, cementing the end of it. Loralee begged and pleaded with Deborah to reconsider, but she wouldn't hear it. From there, Deborah left and never looked back. Loralee was so angry about the breakup that it was too much for her fragile psyche to handle. When a nurse came in to check on her, Loralee sprang from her bed and attacked her. The nurse was permanently blinded when Loralee backed her into the wall and jammed her thumbs into her eyes. Loralee bolted out into the hallway, not caring about the pain from her surgeries. She grabbed a pen from the reception desk and jammed it into a surgeon's throat. She pulled it out, blood squirting everywhere, and jammed it into another nurse's eye. Loralee Hardy had killed 8 personnel from Shore City Municipal Hospital before she was finally overpowered and sedated. From there, Loralee was secured and kept under constant sedation until she could be taken to Erie City Asylum. At her trial, the judge declared her insane and ordered Loralee to remain at the asylum until she would properly pass her evaluations. But I fooled everybody, Deborah, Loralee thought. I got out of that nut house and moved to Strickfield. I'll bet you never even cared when you heard I was killed last spring, did you? But that's fine. I'm over you now. My heart belongs to someone else. When Deborah left the cafeteria with Valinda Bright, Loralee safely entered. Melisande brightened up upon seeing her. Then the girls got in a line to get some food. I can't believe you're really here at my school, Melisande gushed. Not unwelcome, I hope, Loralee replied. No, of course not. I'm glad you're here. At least Trent can't kick you out of here. Melisande and Loralee held hands again. Then Loralee looked into her eyes. Want to go out with me tonight? Melisande gasped. Are you asking me out? You mean like a date? Loralee composed herself. Yeah, we can go anywhere you want. You had me at tonight, Melisande whispered. Coffee Corner's permanently closed because of what happened to Britt. Loralee squeezed her hand. I'm really sorry about your friend. Thank you. Melisande groaned now. Shit. I gotta find another job now. At least I don't have to work with Trent ever again, though. Then let's go job hunting after school, Loralee suggested. We'll go on our date from there. Melisande smiled. I'd like that. Tuesday evening. That night, Loralee and Melisande were on their date. They ate dinner at an Italian restaurant. Afterwards, they went dancing at Wall Street, a same-sex couples club. In all, Loralee made Melisande forget about all the bad things that happened to her at school that morning. She even felt a little better after what had happened to Britt. Thank you for today, Melisande said as they walked together. I can't believe we both found new jobs today. I've been trying to get in at Roth's Rings since it just opened here. You're quite welcome, Loralee replied. At least we get to work together. Melisande felt herself blushing when Loralee held her hand again. What are you doing to me? Anything you want, honey, Loralee murmured. Loralee guided Melisande into a nearby alley and backed her up against a wall. Loralee gazed into her eyes, knowing Melisande wouldn't resist her. She leaned in, and they kissed. Melisande kissed her back. She had been waiting for her first kiss for so long. Most guys didn't want to give Melisande the time of day because she was a goth, the only goth at her high school, actually. Now, her first kiss was with a girl she'd just met. They shared several kisses in the alley. Loralee wasn't sure how long she could keep her composure. The love she felt for Melisande was elevated now. She truly desired her. When they stopped kissing, Loralee could feel Melisande shaking and wondered if she was moving too fast. She certainly didn't want to drive Melisande away. Should I ask Melisande to homecoming? She thought. Hey, worst she can do is say no. As Loralee was about to ask, Melisande's smartphone rang. It's Coffee Corner. I better take this. Melisande was on the phone for a little bit. Soon she hung up. That was the owner, Loralee. He told me I could come and get my final paycheck. The owner's there this late? Loralee asked. Melisande shrugged. I guess. Might as well get what I'm owed. Come with? Of course. The girls walked to Coffee Corner and went around back to see the door was open. Loralee agreed to wait for Melisande. She went in and called out the owner's name. He just left, dyke. Melisande saw Trent. In his hand was her final paycheck. I'll take that, Melisande snapped. Trent quickly shook his head. You know, bitch, I think I'm gonna rip this check up. We both know you don't deserve a fucking cent. Because of you, this place is a fucking crime scene and ain't opening back up. Yeah, I'm ripping your check up right now. Give me that, Trent, now, Melisande demanded. Trent lashed out and shoved her hard. Take it! Melisande shrieked and fell back. Trent suddenly picked her up again and shoved her harder into a nearby wall. "Hey!" a voice called out. They both saw Loralee standing there now, looking very angry. Melisande was ready to cry from being both emotionally and physically abused by this pimple-faced bully. "Fuck you!" Trent moved to tear Melisandre's check. Loralee suddenly drove her foot in between his legs to drive him down to his knees, dropping the paycheck. Loralee snatched it up and gave it to Melisande. Loralee then stopped for a moment and remembered. She now had supernatural strength and pummeled Trent until he begged her for mercy. Loralee threw him to the floor and got on top of him. "If you ever come near Melisande again, I'll fucking kill you! This'll be the only time, I warn you." Loralee got up and turned to Melisande. "I'll walk you home if you want." Melisande nodded quickly. "I'd like that. My parents will lose their shit, but I don't fucking care anymore." Loralee took her hand. "I won't let anything happen to you, I promise." Melisande smiled giddily and let Loralee take her away from her former place of employment. Then she remembered something. "I'd better call Valinda and tell her I'm not spending the night at her house again tonight." "Probably a good idea," Loralee agreed. Late Tuesday. Trent staggered into his apartment building. He was still feeling slight pains in his balls and swore he'd get revenge on Loralee. First, Melisande refused to go out with him when he asked time and time again for dates. Just the idea that Melisande was infatuated with Loralee was a huge slap in the face. Trent never had much luck with getting dates back when he went to high school. Even the girls he considered ugly wouldn't give him the time of day. Then there was that skinny goth chick whom he knew didn't have many friends, and he couldn't even score with her. To add further insult to injury, Melisandre's new girlfriend decked him and made it look easy. He finally reached his apartment and groaned as he put the key in the lock and discovered his door was open. He went in, closing and locking it behind him. He was 2 months behind on his rent. Where would he get another job where he could be both manager and lazy and still be able to come up with rent money? "You fucking bitch!" he yelled up at the ceiling, not caring if his neighbors heard him. "Seriously, you need to just shut the fuck up!" someone called out behind him. Trent turned around. "You? What are you doing in my place, bitch?" Trent pointed past her. "Get the fuck out of here." He opened a kitchen drawer and pulled out a meat tenderizer. Trent suddenly had the meat tenderizer snatched away from him. He raised his hands to try and defend himself, but the tenderizer kept finding his head. Trent staggered against the dirty Formica counter and stumbled onto the floor. He felt himself being turned onto his back and the weight of the girl sitting on him as she continued smashing his head with the lethal kitchen tool. After the maniacal laughter, Trent heard, "I'll see to it you never put your hands on Melisande ever again, you fuck. Getting your ass kicked earlier just wasn't enough. Your birth was a mistake, which I'm correcting right now." Trent was a bloody mess, and his face looked like ground beef by the time he finally died. Wednesday, after midnight. Melisande stood on her back porch and waited for Loralee to return. She cursed herself for forgetting her smartphone again while they were dating. Loralee said she may have remembered where it was and left to go retrieve it. Melisande was so happy Loralee came into her life at a time when she truly needed someone. Yes, she had her circle of friends, but felt even they truly didn't understand her. For years, she felt a numbness inside she could never explain. Becoming goth and practicing black magic helped ease that numbness some. Now she had Loralee Alexandra, who didn't seem to care who or what she was. She was truly feeling things that she'd never felt before, and she didn't want those feelings to ever stop. Now the girls were attending school together and would be working at a new location of Roth's Rings near Buckeye State University. Roth's Rings also had locations in Erie City and in Strickfield. Jerry Roth, the owner, and also the dean of Strickfield University, interviewed both girls himself, and hired them on the spot. Just then, Loralee returned with Prom's smartphone in hand. When Melisande thanked her, Loralee backed her up and kissed her. Melisande moaned and kissed her back. They shared several kisses before they stopped. Melisande was biting her lower lip when she took Loralee's hand. "Come in with me." "What about your parents?" Loralee asked, playing dumb. "Don't care," she declared as she opened the back door. After Melisande brought Loralee in, she called out for her parents. No reply. Melisande closed the door and took Loralee upstairs. As they stopped outside her room, Melisande went to her parents' bedroom. She turned to Loralee. "They're not home. Weird. They're never out this late." "Do you even care?" Loralee asked. Melisande smiled. "No." She returned to Loralee and took her into the bedroom. The girls got on the bed and began making out again. They kissed for several minutes. Eventually, Loralee was on top of Melisande and gazing into her eyes. "You want me to stay?" Loralee asked. "Would you?" Melisande beckoned. They kissed again. Loralee had gotten her hands up Melisandre's t-shirt and was feeling her soft, silky back. She wasn't wearing a bra underneath. Soon there were no clothes between them. They became intimate with each other for many hours, well into the night. The girls finally stopped and got under the covers. Loralee held her close as they finally fell asleep. Wednesday morning. Melisande and Loralee walked to school after spending an incredible night together. When they entered the building, Loralee saw Deborah Lehman among Melisandre's circle. "Why don't you go on ahead?" Loralee suggested. "I need to use the restroom." Melisande nodded and went to join her friends. When the group greeted her, she was more responsive. She still couldn't believe how Razor Rathman stood up to Principal Gaster that morning before. When it came to Razor, the truth was, she never really felt comfortable around him. She often wondered if her being a goth put him off. When Razor suddenly looked her way, Melisande turned to get away and tripped over her platform boots. She gasped when she felt Razor's two meaty hands under her shoulders and lifting her. She knew she easily weighed as little as a feather to him as he put her back on her feet. When he was in front of her now, all she could do was look up, meekly at him. "You okay?" he asked. She couldn't tell if he was being sincere or yelling at her. "I mean, you ain't hurt, are you?" She shook her head quickly and gulped as she scurried off to class. Razor seemed upset as he watched her leave. It was during lunch period when Blake Zerner walked into the girls' locker room after finishing intramural volleyball. "Still can't believe Melisande LaPala is being considered for homecoming queen," she muttered to her friends. "Or that skinny skank actually has any friends." "How'd you get that black eye?" one of her friends asked her. "Oh, yeah, she's got a new friend now," Blake snapped. "That new girl. Loralee Alexandra found me pushing that little beanpole around in the restroom. We got into a fight until Mrs. Zims came and broke it up." Then she declared to her friends, "Melisande LaPala is not making it to the homecoming dance. When I get my hands on that fucking Wednesday Addams wannabe, I'm gonna break her every which way I can." The other girls got changed for lunch and left. Blake decided to stay behind and take a shower. She got undressed and got the water running. Soon she was soaking wet and soaping herself down. It wasn't long before another girl was stepping into the showers to join her. Blake rinsed the shampoo from her hair and turned to see. "You?" Loralee stood and faced her. "Yeah, bitch. Me. We never got to finish what you started earlier." She pointed at Blake. "You ain't never touching Melisande ever again." Blake grinned. "Okay, you want to go girl on girl in here? Let's do this." Loralee struck and soon had Blake up against the wall. Then she hit Blake hard in the stomach and knocked the wind out of her. Loralee hit her in the stomach again, even harder, breaking the flesh. Loralee pressed her lips to Blake's. as she pulled out her vital organs. Soon, Blake went limp in her arms. Loralee let the corpse fall and rinsed herself off before she left the shower. At that same moment, Melisande was on her way to class. As on the day before, she was snatched up and brought into an empty classroom, where she was thrown to the floor. Then she heard the door closing. Melisande looked to see she was again in front of Rhys Claiborne and Ali Prince. Melisande raised her hands. Okay, I'll drop out. I'll go tell Principal Gaster right now. You two can come into the office with me and see for yourselves. Rhys flashed her pearly whites. I really don't care anymore. I just don't like you, Melisande. Right now, I'm going to watch my girl here beat you within an inch of your life. Babe, you have carte blanche. Ali was on Melisande and yanked her to her feet. Melisande cried out as Ali threw one fist after another at her. Soon, she lifted Melisande effortlessly and threw her at a wall. She was back on the floor and in pain. Please, stop, Melisande begged, crying. No, I don't think so, Rhys purred. Ali, I changed my mind. Just kill her. No, Melisande shrieked. I'll drop out, please. Suddenly, the door flew open. Razor Rathman came in. Let her go. Ali went right at Razor and they tore into each other. But today, Ali wanted the victory more and eventually beat Razor down. Rhys laughed at knowing her muscle girl had won yet again. When Ali went to continue beating Melisande, Razor quickly moved in between them. I ain't done yet, you fucking bitch, Razor told Ali. Fine, I'll kill you both, Ali sneered. Then Rhys saw the door to the classroom was wide open. Shit, we better stop, babe. I'm sure we were seen. Ali was upset that she didn't get what she wanted, but she obeyed Rhys and followed her back out into the hallway. Razor turned to the crying Melisande. Hey, you okay? Melisande was still afraid of him, but she forced herself to nod. Razor got to his feet and again pulled her up like a feather, setting her back on her toes. The way he looked at her, she wondered if he was going to work her over himself. Instead, he stepped aside to let her walk out. But she didn't leave. Melisande's pent-up emotions became too much, and her crying turned to sobbing. She turned into Razor and let him hold her. Neither of them had seen Loralee glaring at them just outside the doorway. No, just at Razor. She could tell Razor desired Melisande and would keep an eye on him, just to make sure. If it turned out he truly desired her, then she would have to eliminate him. Absolutely nobody was coming in between her and Melisande. Nobody. Wednesday evening. After school, Loralee Hardy and Melisande LaPaula were starting their new jobs at Roth's Rings. Loralee felt her heart pounding when she saw how happy and relaxed Melisande was. At one point, the two of them had to go in the back to grab supplies. Loralee surprised Melisande by easing her up against a wall and kissing her. Melisande wrapped Loralee in her arms as they were making out, hot and heavy. She moaned harder when Loralee's hands were inside her silky black blouse and caressing her back. She wrapped one of her legs around Loralee and felt her heart ready to explode, clearly wanting to be intimate with Loralee again. Unfortunately, when they heard people at the counter, they were forced to come apart. They smiled at each other before picking up their supplies and taking them up front. The girls were both surprised when they saw 3 beefy guys inside chasing everybody out of the building, before they realized that one of them had locked the door. Then they approached the counter. Melisande immediately recognized Clem Otterson, one of Shore City East High's resident hoods. He always had his 2 friends in tow, Kenny Ford and Fred Willis. The 3 guys and the employees were at a standoff. "Get the fuck out of here," Loralee told them, breaking the silence. Clem shook his head. "Nope, can't hear ya. See, we're supposed to fuck you both up." He pointed to Melisande. "Mostly her." Melisande bowed her head. "Why can't Reese just leave me alone?" Loralee knew she could take the 3 of them easily, and she really wanted to end them, most violently. However, she thought of Melisande and didn't want to lose her. The mere thought of it caused Loralee to close her eyes in pain. "Don't worry, we'll keep hitting you both real hard so you can die sooner," Fred jeered. Loralee opened her eyes and shook her head quickly, but it was because she would not lose Melisande. She quickly picked up the phone and dialed 911. Before the hoods could stop Loralee, Melisande picked up 2 cups of hot coffee and threatened to throw them both. After Loralee talked to the operator, she hung up the phone. "You guys are so fucked," Loralee told them. "Yeah, you didn't call him," Kenny jeered, calling Loralee's bluff. Suddenly, they heard tapping on the front door. Everybody turned to see 2 Shore City PD representatives standing there. Loralee moved and unlocked the door to let the officers come in. After the girls lodged their complaint, the guys were arrested. Loralee even gave each of the officers a free drink and a donut of their choice as a thank you. Melisande turned to Loralee. "I wish I could be more like you. You're always so brave and can stand up to people. I can't do that. I'm so skinny I'll blow away in the wind." Loralee really wanted to tell her the truth. "Hey, this is where we work. Couldn't let those assholes do what they did." Seeing they were alone again, at least for the moment, they returned to the back and resumed their heated makeout session. When their shifts were over, the girls went back to Melisandre's house. "I'm guessing my parents are home now," she said sadly. "We'll see," Loralee replied. When Loralee took and held her hand, Melisande asked, "If not, spend the night with me again?" Loralee smiled. "You know I will." But when the girls reached the house, they saw a most unwelcome visitor. "Uncle Louis?" Melisande asked. "What do you want?" "I've been by here the last couple of days," he answered rudely. "Seems your parents ain't home. Want to tell me where they're at?" Melisande shrugged. "I don't even know." Louis moved from the porch and shoved Melisande. "Goddamn devil-worshipping bitch. You probably killed him for Satan to keep giving you your black magics, didn't you? Which would explain some of them red stains I found in the living room. Guess you didn't clean up as good as you thought." He shoved her again. "I got a good mind to beat your fucking ass and drag you to church, you ungrateful little bitch. Never did like you. Always thought you was a waste." Melisande always hated Uncle Louis. Now she was very angry and she shoved him back. "Get the fuck out of here." "Or what?" he challenged. "We both know you ain't got nothing. You ain't even 100 pounds soaking wet." Then he slapped her across the face. "Come on, call your Lord and Master Satan to come and strike me down." Loralee was seething with anger when she suddenly stood in between them. "You heard what she said. Get the fuck out of here. I already called the cops once today." Louis wasn't backing down. "Get out of my face before I belch you." But Loralee wouldn't oblige and waited for Louis to make good on his threat. But he never did. Melisande was so angry she jumped on Louis's back when he turned away and pulled on his hair. "Get the fuck out of here," she screamed. "I fucking hate you." Louis tried throwing her off, but Melisande held fast. He finally tripped and fell with Melisande right on top of him. Loralee eased her off. Then he got up and glared at both of them. "I'll be back, you fucking Satanists," he promised. "I'm gonna get to the bottom of this." Louis yelled and cursed as he left the property. Loralee turned to Melisande and held her close. I'm so sorry, honey. I feel like this is all my fault. Please don't leave me tonight, Melisande pleaded. He'll be back. I know he will. Loralee considered it. Go inside, lock the doors, and calm down. I'll go and get us some dinner. Sound good? She felt Melisande nod on her shoulder. When they separated, they shared a quick kiss. When Loralee left, Melisande went inside. Again, she felt her parents were nowhere to be found. And she was starting to wonder. Louis LaPala stopped in at a nearby tavern. He ordered a few shots of whiskey and started yelling to the bartender about the two devil-worshipping girls who were to blame for his being pissed off. Then he ordered another shot of whiskey. As he was about to drink it, he felt someone right next to him. Rough night, motherfucker? Louis turned to see Loralee pick up his whiskey shot and splash it in his face. You fucking bitch! He yelled. But Loralee was out the door before he was on his feet. Louis was in hot pursuit. Loralee led him on a chase down a few alleyways and eventually made sure he saw her go inside an abandoned warehouse. Loralee led him up to the second floor, but it was on the third where Louis finally found her. Completely naked. He couldn't believe it when he saw her. Do you like what you see? She purred. I'm still gonna kill your fucking ass, Louis growled and came at her. Loralee stood her ground. Not happening. She pulled a glass shard out from behind her back and drove it up under his chin. Because I just killed your fucking ass. When Louis fell onto his back, Loralee pounced on him and kept stabbing him with the glass. With each hard stab, blood spattered and squirted onto her naked flesh. For a brief moment, she wondered if she might actually be her Aiden personality. No, she knew for sure she was Loralee Hardy. Yet, these days, she was prone to fits of anger and rage the same way Aiden was both in life and in her former personality. The more she thought about it, the more she realized that all of her previous personalities were one with her, which would explain the hostility she sometimes felt that was Aiden or the understanding that was her mother. Loralee moaned softly when she saw she was soaked in the blood of a self-righteous bigot who crossed the line when he slapped Melisande. Even now, she was still very upset, but she was calming down more knowing she had taken care of this particular problem. Loralee moaned again when she stood and got off Louis's corpse. Then she hugged herself when she felt the emotional pain in the pit of her stomach. She hated that people always gave Melisande such a hard time just because she was trying to find herself. She wasn't hurting anyone or anything. If anything, Melisande was a quiet and passionate creature, which was why Loralee realized she had fallen in love with her. As Loralee disposed of Louis's body, she knew she would do absolutely anything for Melisande. She would especially kill anyone who would come in between the two of them. She was already planning on killing Deborah Lehman the first chance she got. Thursday morning. Melisande was breathing romantic breaths at her locker at Shore City East High School. She remembered waiting a bit impatiently the night before for Loralee to return to the house. Yes, Loralee made good on getting dinner for them. She had truly been listening to her when she said what her favorite food was. Loralee had brought home Chinese food from her favorite place, the Golden Dragon. The place was side to side with a laundromat, and the building looked run down. Inside, however, it looked like a 5-star restaurant. The food there tasted so authentic to her she'd swear it could have been made in China itself. What was more, Loralee had given her a big bouquet of black roses. She didn't know where Loralee could have gotten fresh flowers for her that late, but Melisande cried tears of joy. Melisande and Loralee had again shared a heated night of intimacy before they fell asleep together. She kept wondering what that burning sensation she was feeling in the pit of her stomach was. She knew for sure that it happened whenever Loralee was around, or when she was thinking of her. Suddenly, Melisande shrieked when the hulking form of Arnie Razor Rathman was standing there. She composed herself and gulped. Hi, what's up? I'll come join everybody shortly. Suddenly, Razor pulled something out from behind his back. Melisande gasped when she saw another bouquet of roses, except these were blood red. She gulped and looked up into Razor's face. Will you be my date for homecoming, Melisande? Razor managed to choke out. Melisande really gulped now. Razor, I haven't stopped thinking about you since freshman year, he admitted. If I don't ask you out now, I know I'll regret it for the rest of my life. You don't have to go to the dance with me, Melisande, but I had to ask you. I just had to. Melisande really didn't know what to say. She never expected to get 2 bouquets of beautiful roses in just under 12 hours. She had been so scared of Razor ever since she first met him. She always thought he hated her and wanted to devour her in some odd way. Now she realized how completely wrong she had been about this gentle giant. Why couldn't she have understood that when he stood up for her? Twice. And here he was, carrying a burning torch for her. What's going on? A familiar voice interrupted. Razor and Melisande saw Loralee standing there. She folded her arms in front of her when she saw the bouquet. In truth, she had seen everything. I guess this means you're not going to prom with me, she asked Melisande. Then she said to them, this just doesn't ever happen to me. When she looked from one to the other, a tear slid down her cheek. I really don't know what to do. Rhys Claiborne and Ollie Prinz saw Razor and Loralee together with Melisande and weren't believing it. How does that fucking skank get 2 people wanting her black heart? Rhys demanded. Want me to fuck him up? Ollie asked. You want any of them gone? Rhys turned to Ollie. Gone? Yeah. I love how you give me such great ideas. Yes, babe. I want Melisande gone. And I know just how to make that happen. The girls fully faced each other now. I want you to take that fist and really lay it into my face. Ali looked at her with complete shock. Rhys, you heard me. I said, I want you to hit me as hard as you can. Ali knew Rhys well enough to know she wasn't joking. As Loralee and Razor waited for Melisande to say something about their current situation, some ruckus brought them out of their bubble. They looked to see Rhys Claiborne dragging herself on the floor. Melisande gasped when she saw the black eye and the bruises on Rhys's face. She never thought she would ever see the day when someone would finally deck Rhys. Soon Principal Theodore Gastor was on the scene. He knelt down beside Rhys and helped her to her feet. Rhys seemed to be in a great deal of pain. Then she saw Melisande and screamed, Keep her away from me! She did this! What? Melisande barely squeaked. Oh, that is bullshit, Razor roared. Melisande's been with Loralee and me. Loralee didn't know how to feel about Razor including her, but at least he was again going to bat for Melisande. Principal Gaster wasn't hearing it, however, and pointed right at Melisande. Get the hell out of my school right now, you little degenerate! You are suspended! Suspended! And furthermore, don't even bother coming to the homecoming dance. You're out for the homecoming crown. You can come back to school on November 1st. Melisande tightened her fists, gazed up at the ceiling, and screamed at the top of her lungs. Other students who saw her quickly got away from her. When she lowered her head, she was crying. She couldn't believe Principal Gaster just took Reese's side without hearing hers. "I didn't do it," she squeaked. "Out! Now!" Principal Gaster yelled. As Melisande turned to leave, one of the other homecoming queen candidates and a popular cheerleader, Daphne Ridley, sneered at her. "You'll always be on the outside looking in, Satan. Why don't you just get the hint and keep on walking? You'll never belong here." Again, when Principal Gaster let even Daphne's comment pass without a word, Melisande couldn't stop herself from crying more as she slowly walked out through the main doors. Deborah Lehman and Valinda Bright both saw everything. And then Deborah gasped with a look of horror when she saw Loralee Hardy. She approached her former lover and barely whispered in horror, It can't be you. You're dead." Loralee responded by smiling and giving her the finger. Then she left to go after Melisande, knowing she could not be alone. Thursday evening. Daphne Ridley had just gotten home from cheerleading practice. Her now ex-boyfriend Russell Vickers was waiting for her on her front porch. Daphne looked at him with both anger and awe. "I fucking told you I was done with you." "But what if I'm not done with you?" Russell sneered. She came up on the porch and dropped her backpack. Gee, let me think. I only caught you feeling up that ugly bitch Abby Gables this morning." Russell shrugged. "Hey, she came and threw herself at me, and I'm a guy. Of course I'm gonna feel her up." Daphne pointed to the street. "Get the fuck off my porch, you disgusting pig." When he wouldn't obey her, Daphne groaned, picked up her bag, and went to go inside to call the police. Suddenly, Russell was on her and pushed her into the house. After closing the door behind him, Russell forced Daphne to the couch and pushed her down on it. He got on top of her and held her arms down. "Your parents ain't home," he said coolly. "That means we got the whole house to ourselves." "Get off of me!" Daphne yelled. He gave her a predatory grin. "Yeah, you know I'm the guy you gotta have every day. And right now, you're fiending." Daphne roared and fought to get Russell off her. She tried turning her head when he went to kiss her, which proved futile when he sucked on her neck instead. She roared again and tried to fight him off, but he was too strong for her. She turned her head to yell at him again, allowing Russell to finally connect with her mouth. Daphne growled when he thrusted his tongue deep inside. When her growls turned into groaning, Russell knew he had her. Daphne sucked on his tongue and then wrestled it with her own. It wasn't long before Russell let her arms go for them to wrap around him. Daphne had one last bit of restraint left when she felt him trying to lift up her t-shirt. When his hands found 2 mounds of soft flesh underneath, her resistance was conquered. It wasn't long before Russell got Daphne completely naked. Then she watched him quickly undress. He lowered himself on top of her so they could kiss again. The lovers easily got a round of hot and heavy sex in before Daphne suggested they continue up in the shower. When he got her off, she took him by the hand and led him upstairs. As soon as they were in the shower, Daphne got it running. Then she glared at him. "I'm still mad at you." She pushed up on her own endowed breasts. "Mine are so much better than that ugly bitch you were feeling up this morning. And you still felt her up anyway. What the fuck's your problem, Russell? Ain't I good enough for you? Maybe I ought to start getting hot and heavy with your friends and letting you catch us together." Hearing this, Russell realized Daphne had become the girl he couldn't be without either. Okay. No more fucking around, I promise." Daphne sneered. "Yeah, right. You think I don't see you undressing Melisande LaPala with your eyes every time you see her? I know you want to fuck her. Why? She ain't nothing but skin and bones. She'd probably shatter as soon as you lay on top of her." Daphne wanted to tell him to leave again, but he kissed her hungrily. She returned the favor, and the dysfunctional couple again went hot and heavy. After several minutes, they finished another round. It was then when the shower door suddenly opened. The couple screamed when they saw the girl with the electric carving knife in her hands. Russell groaned when the lethal blade came to life and went across his throat. Then the blade cut into his stomach and shredded his muscular flesh and internal organs. Blood and bits of flesh sprayed everywhere. Daphne screamed as her boyfriend splattered all over her. She screamed louder as she quickly burst from the shower and ran. She had never been so scared as when she heard the insane laughter leaving the bathroom and coming after her. Daphne wasn't even thinking straight when she threw open the front door and darted outside, naked and mostly soaked with Russell's blood and bits of flesh and organs. She screamed a blood-curdling scream as she ran across the street and down an alley. She never heard any of the approving whistles from the males who had seen her streaking. Daphne ran and ran and ran and ran. Daphne saw the end of the alley and began to whimper. As soon as she was out in the middle of the next street, she barely made a peep or comprehended that a car had just slammed into her and sent her flying several yards before she landed hard on the road. She was in great pain and cried as she felt her spine twisted in ways she knew it was never meant to be. She could only hear the door open and the footsteps coming towards her. "You've been taking cheap shots at my Melisande, especially this morning at school," she heard. "So I'm taking some cheap shots at you." "Please," Daphne choked out. "Please leave me alone. I'm sorry. A long pause. Then she heard the response. "Okay, you're forgiven." She heard the girl walk back into her car and get in. The last sounds Daphne Ridley would ever hear would be the car backing up, followed by the tires squealing. Then she felt the front tire running over her head. She was already dead before the back tire crushed her skull and brain inside. Daphne's body twitched for several seconds before it stopped forever. Late Thursday. Deborah didn't want to believe it, but she recognized Loralee Hardy as plain as the nose on her own face. She waited until late to sneak out of her house and drive out to Greenlawn Cemetery. She kept wondering again and again, but it was confirmed by the Strickfield PD that Loralee Hardy was indeed killed at Strickfield High's prom last spring. Deborah practically hit the side of the main entrance as she drove into the cemetery. She could feel her heart racing as she got closer to the location. After she stopped the car and got out, she ran to Loralee's grave and dropped to her knees. "Oh my God," she choked. No two ways about it. The grave looked like the corpse had indeed come out of its coffin. Right away, she realized what had happened. Valinda had talked Melisande into reading a black magic spell right in front of Loralee's grave. Well, clearly there was no supposedly about this. Loralee Hardy was indeed back from the dead, and now she was with Melisande. She knew she had to warn her friends immediately, especially Melisande. As Deborah turned and ran back to her car, someone grabbed her from behind and drove a knife right into her side. Deborah groaned in pain. Before she could react, the knife was removed. Then she was shoved onto her side. The next thing Deborah knew, she heard her car starting. Deborah forced herself to her feet and tried to run. She didn't get far before she was hit by her own car. She tumbled onto the hood, cracked the windshield, and went over the top, tumbled down to the trunk, and slammed right onto the asphalt. The last thing she heard was her attacker getting out of the car and walking away. Deborah tried reaching out when she barely saw the girl's back. "Fuck you, Loralee," she managed to get out before she slipped away into unconsciousness. Perhaps the cold blackness that came with death. Friday morning, Melisande LaPaula returned to Shore City East High School legally. Principal Theodore Gastor scowled at her as she walked by him. As always, she was clad in black and wearing her makeup, as any goth girl would. What happened? Loralee Alexandra caught up to her after she left the school the day before. Soon, Arnie Razor Rathman would skip school to join them. Loralee wasn't too keen on Razor being there, but she felt he truly wanted to help Melisande. Melisande just wanted things to end, but her two love interests both talked her into going to the school board and pleading her case. They both said they would go with her. Key school board members agreed to meet with Melisande. At the end of the meeting, they told her to return to school the next morning. One of them picked up the phone and called Principal Gastor. Melisande was officially reinstated to both school and the running for homecoming queen. Members of the school board were at Shore City East High to conduct an investigation. They even pulled Reese and Ali in for questioning. But it seemed they had their stories straight. The school board could not prove that Reese had orchestrated the attack on Melisande, and both girls were allowed to remain in school. Melisande was glad to be cleared, but she was angry that Reese had gotten away with whatever she wanted. When lunch period came, both Razor and Loralee met up with Melisande. Loralee really wanted to kill Razor, but he hadn't said or done anything against her. He wasn't even trying to fight her. Melisande could clearly see the tension between the two of them. "Yeah, I know. I need to choose between you two," she said sadly. "I really can't believe this is happening to me. I'm truly sorry about being conflicted." Razor put a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Just tell me you're with Loralee here, and I promise I'll leave you alone. I had to tell you how I felt. That's all, Melisande." Melisande tightened her fists and cried a little. "And that's why I can't make a choice. I really don't want to break anybody's heart, but that's exactly what's going to happen here. Please understand." Loralee turned to Razor. "To be fair, I was the one who was seeing Melisande before you came along and poured your heart out to her." Razor addressed Loralee. "I didn't ask to feel the way I feel about her." "Stop it, both of you!" Melisande pleaded. She raised her hands in front of her. "I think there's only one way everybody wins here." She explained her idea. Loralee's eyes opened wide. "Are you serious right now?" Razor also understood as he pointed repeatedly from one girl to the other. "You mean go to homecoming together, all three of us? People are going to think we're one of those thruples or something." Melisande still looked sad. "It's just for homecoming, you guys. This is the only way I can think of to where everybody wins here." She raised her finger. "And I do not want either of you fighting over me. I mean that." Loralee and Razor both looked at each other, and then back to Melisande. Friday afternoon. Melisande and Loralee were off from Roth's Rings. When Loralee suggested they get their hair done for homecoming, Melisande was reluctant. Then she remembered she needed to have a little maintenance done and changed her mind. Loralee remembered a mall she used to love visiting during her first lifetime and suggested they get their hair done at the Great Mall of Shore City. After taking an Uber to get there, the girls walked around the grand 3-story place of commerce. Loralee immediately remembered Strickfield Town Center Mall from her days in that village. She hated that the Strickfield Mall always seemed to be on the verge of closing down when it wasn't around the holidays. But this mall was the biggest in this megalopolis. While many malls across the country had shown hard times, the Great Mall of Shore City seemed to be one of the very few that time had forgotten. Melisande couldn't believe the many people that patronized this mall. Also, there were no vacancies. If this mall ever had one, it wasn't too long before another business came in to occupy it. It was no secret that there was a waiting list for businesses wanting to establish inside this mall. Melisande wasn't as enthused about the mall as Loralee seemed to be, but she allowed that it was seemingly an escape from her mundane reality. Also, she was holding hands with Loralee as they walked around and succumbed to its spectacle. It was when they were finally on the 3rd floor that they came to Deidre's, a salon and spa Loralee had patronized many times before. It wasn't long before the girls signed in and were waiting their turns. Loralee flirted with Melisande by gently petting her hand. Soon she snatched Loralee's hand and held it. Only a few short minutes later, Valinda Bright and Janice Ingalls walked in. Valinda quickly greeted Melisande and Loralee before she said, "Janice asked me if I knew a great place to get her hair done for tomorrow, so I suggested here. Guess you two had the same idea, huh?" Melisande smiled. "Yeah, this was Loralee's idea." Then Janice looked at Loralee and Melisande with great admiration. "Melisande, I know we're both in the running for the homecoming crown and everything." She quickly waved her hands in front of her. "But I'm not here to give you a hard time." She lowered her hands and smiled. "I am amazed that you two are both going out with Arnie Rathman now." Loralee and Melisande looked at each other. Then they turned back to Valinda and Janice. "Oh yeah, it was all over the school," Valinda told them. "You guys didn't know?" We didn't exactly go around telling everybody about it," Loralee said. "I'm sure Razor didn't say anything," Melisande said. "He's not like that." Janice gave them an apologetic look. "You three didn't have to. Some of the girls at our high school can read body language real good. They were the ones who told everybody." She waved her hand in front of them. "Again, I'm happy for you three. I really am." "We're not really a full-blown throuple," Loralee said. "No, this was just a temporary solution for homecoming," Melisande added. "At least until I can make up my damn mind." She gave an apologetic look to Loralee again. Valinda seemed to remember something and pointed at Melisande. "Hey girl, if you're not staying with me anymore, my parents kind of want you to come and get your things." "Oh, sorry Valinda," Melisande replied. "I've just been through a lot of shit these past few days." Then she quickly said to Loralee, "Not you." Loralee smiled a little. "I knew what you meant." Soon Janice was called back. Valinda explained that Janice already had an appointment booked. The stylist who came out for Janice told Loralee and Melisande they were next. When the lovers were alone again, Loralee turned to Melisande. "I can't believe the whole goddamn school thinks we're a throuple. I mean, what the fuck?" "Again, I'm sorry," Melisande said. "This is all my fault. Why did Razor have to pour his heart out to me?" She groaned and bowed her head sadly. "It really tugged at my heartstrings. Hard." "Baby, it's okay." Loralee got up. A woman came out for the two of them. When Melisande saw they weren't being seated for styling, she looked to Loralee for an explanation. "I sort of slipped a massage in," she admitted. "I hope you're not mad." Melisande uttered. "Go on back, honey," Loralee told her. "I'll be right there. I'm just going to buy a couple of tea cocktails for us to drink." Janice Ingalls was in the middle of getting her hair done. She was having it washed when she felt some wetness and suds from the shampoo get on her eyelids. It was then when the fire alarm went off. "Come on, honey, we've got to go," the stylist told Janice. On impulse, Janice opened her eyes and cried out when the suds burned on contact. "Shit!" "Oh, I'm sorry, I guess the fire alarm scared me," the stylist stammered. Then she looked over her shoulder to see people scurrying past her to get out into the main mall. As the stylist was about to quickly rinse Janice's eyes out, she felt someone grab her from behind and jam a pair of scissors right into the side of her throat. The stylist choked and gagged on both the metal and her own blood before she collapsed and died, blood all over her mouth. "What's going on?" Janice called out. Suddenly, she was grabbed by her hair and pulled back into the styling chair. "You fucking bitch! You just had to bring the thruple thing up, didn't you?" Before Janice could protest, she felt an arm going around her neck and keeping her pinned down. As Janice opened her mouth to scream, she felt something very hot and metallic suddenly getting shoved into her mouth and deep into her throat. Janice choked, gagged, and tried to scream as the hot curling iron was held deep in her throat until she finally died from both her injuries and being unable to breathe. The police would find Janice's body with the curling iron still in her throat later, and the dead stylist on the floor beside her. Saturday afternoon. Melisande couldn't believe it. 1, she was actually looking forward to going to homecoming. 2, she actually had 2 dates. Loralee and Razor agreed to her terms to attend this major high school dance as a thruple. Loralee kept thinking of how many ways she could kill Razor. Try as she might, she just couldn't bring herself to harm him, even if it meant having Melisande all to herself. Razor was just such a nice guy underneath that tough exterior. Then there was the fact that he protected Melisande on a few occasions. Loralee had to at least give him kudos for that. She reasoned that her calmness came from the mother part of her combined personality. Also, Loralee was curious to see how this rather unusual date would turn out. Razor picked up both girls in his convertible. From there, they trusted him to take them someplace nice for dinner. Apparently, Razor had been listening to Melisande when she talked too, because he pulled in at that run-down building that housed both a laundromat and the Golden Dragon. "Wow," Melisande breathed. "Twice in 1 week." Razor looked uncertain. "Sorry, I didn't know you ate here already, Melisande. If you want to go somewhere else..." No, this is perfect," Melisande replied. "Unless you don't want to come here, Loralee." "No, I love this place too. Let's eat here," she quickly agreed. They all got out of the car and went in. They were immediately seated at their table, which they saw had a reserved sign on it. "You did this?" Loralee asked Razor. Razor shrugged. "Hey, Loralee, it's homecoming. You just know people are going to be out like we are, getting dinner before going to the dance." "Why can't I fucking be mad at you?" Loralee screamed in her own mind. After they ordered, the 3 of them talked about their date. When they got their food, they enjoyed it, and each other's company. Melisande found herself looking at both of her wrists again, where her dates had each claimed one to place a corsage. She was looking apologetically at them again. "It's all right," Loralee told her. "I still can't decide," Melisande admitted. "I know you were dating me first, Loralee. I haven't forgotten that." She glanced at Razor. "Then you presented me with your roses and told me how you felt. I know it wasn't easy for you to tell me. I don't want to break anyone's heart." She faced them both now. "I've never had anything like this happen to me before. Please don't make me have to choose." Loralee and Razor both looked at each other. Rhys Claiborne and Ali Prinz were driving around. It wasn't long before they recognized Razor's convertible parked outside the Golden Dragon. "Really? He took those 2 cunts to that fucking dump?" Ali asked in surprise. Rhys glanced at her. "Only looks that way on the outside. I promise you their Chinese food is second to none. Trust me on this." "You know I trust you," Ali told her. "You really shouldn't, you know," Rhys warned her. "You know how I can be." "Tell me to fuck off and die then," Ali challenged. They glanced at each other for a moment. Then Rhys shook her head slowly. "Not when we've been through so much together. For Reese, it was just as Taylor Mirren from Strickfield High had once described winning a crown. The prestige. Now that she and Ali had found Melisande, Reese knew exactly how to keep her from making it to the homecoming dance. She was absolutely sure she would win the crown over Melisande, especially since it was just down to 2 nominees now. But she wasn't taking any chances. Reese explained her plan to Ali once they parked behind the restaurant, and from there, they got out of the car to execute it. The throuple had finished their dinner. Melisande felt her emotions rising when her dates each took a hand and held it. She could feel herself blushing, and still couldn't believe this was happening to her. Going to homecoming was one thing, but this... Melisande took her hands back and excused herself to go to the restroom. She went in and washed her hands, then checked her makeup in the mirror. She had worn her best dress, which was a black ball gown. She never told anyone, but she wore it to a wealthy relative's funeral a year ago. The dress was such a beautiful thing that she cherished it and hoped to wear it again for something special. Today, she finally got her wish. Suddenly, the restroom door burst open, revealing Ali Prinz. "You're coming with me, you little bitch. Fight me or don't. I'll beat the fuck out of you and make you come with me," she sneered. "I really hope you fight me." Melisande shook her head. "Why can't you and Reese just leave me alone? I never did a fucking thing to either one of you." Ali grabbed Melisande by her waist and yanked her out of the restroom. "You and me are gonna get real close, at least until after homecoming's over." But Ali underestimated exactly how thin Melisande was. The little goth girl squirmed enough to where she could slink down until she was out of Ali's arms. She quickly got to her feet and ran back out into the restaurant. Ali gave chase and knew she would easily catch Melisande. Then Razor saw what was happening and immediately stood up. He marched right in between Melisande and Ali. "I mean it," he told Ali. "Leave Melisande alone. Get out, now!" Ali wasted no time and punched Razor. Razor returned the favor, and the two of them were locked in a heated brawl. Restaurant staff came out and protested. Then Loralee saw Reese and decided since there was no way she could kill Razor, she would at least kill this malignancy, who kept making her presence known seemingly everywhere they went. When Reese saw Loralee, she grabbed a fork off one of the empty tables. Loralee smirked and grabbed a sharp knife off of her table. "Yeah, I really think you should die right now," Loralee told Reese. Melisande couldn't believe this was happening. On the most magical day of her life, she knew she had to put a stop to this and went outside. She quickly pulled out her smartphone and dialed the police. Suddenly, Melisande was struck on the back of her head. She dropped to the asphalt parking lot and slipped into unconsciousness as she felt her phone being taken from her. Later that afternoon, Melisande finally awakened and groaned as she stood up. She saw where she was and quickly went back inside the restaurant. Melisande put her hands to the sides of her head and uttered a blood-curdling scream. She couldn't believe what she was seeing. Bodies were lying all over the restaurant. Many of them had been cut open. Some of them had bullet holes. Insides were all over outsides. Blood was wetting the floor from wherever injuries were inflicted. Melisande heard people say many times that she was probably into horror movies, but the truth was she never liked them since they truly scared her and gave her nightmares. Now she was living in her very own horror movie. Suddenly she gasped and knew she had to find Loralee and Razor. It was then when she held herself and almost cried. However, she collected herself and focused on trying to see if any of the bodies belonged to either of her dates. She prayed like Jesus must have prayed in the Gethsemane garden that night that she would not find either of them among the dead. Then it became too much. Melisande raced outside, dropped to her knees, and threw up her dinner. "Melisande!" a voice called out. Loralee knelt down beside her. "You okay?" Melisande pointed inside. Then she saw the blood on Loralee's exposed shoulders and dress. "Yeah, I know what it must look like. You should see that rich bitch, though." Melisande quickly took Loralee's hand. "Please tell me you saw Razor." Loralee didn't want to include Razor any longer, but she understood how Melisande truly felt. Razor and the muscle bitch are still fighting it out somewhere. Melisande saw it was almost dark now. "How did you get so bloody, Loralee?" "When it came to that rich bitch, I fucking beat her ass. She spat blood on me when I knocked one of her teeth out." She put her hands on Melisandre's shoulders. "Are you okay?" Melisande nodded quickly. "I'm calling the police. This is all just fucking horrible." Then she remembered. "Fuck, someone hit me and took my phone." "And I don't own a phone," Loralee confessed. "I'll go in the restaurant and call them." Just outside, Deborah Lehman also had a mission. She had been tailing Loralee Hardy since she got out of the hospital. The doctor told her to stay home so her stitches in her side could heal properly. Deborah was obsessed with learning the actual truth about how her former lover was resurrected, though she was certain she knew how. She also wondered how long it would be before Loralee would kill either Razor or Melisande. "I've got to stop you, Loralee." She shook her head slowly when she saw the blood on her former lover. "How many people have you killed, you monster?" Deborah knew that one way or another, Loralee had to be killed for the second and final time. There was only one way to save her friends. She tightened her hands around the steering wheel. Seeing Loralee was walking away from Melisande, Deborah floored the accelerator and drove right at her prey. Melisande screamed when Deborah slammed right into Loralee with her car. When she was flat on her stomach, Deborah quickly turned the car around and floored it again, this time running over Loralee's body. Deborah stopped and quickly got out of the car. Melisande ran to her with the intention of hitting her. "You fucking bitch! Why?" Deborah quickly grabbed Melisande and stuffed her into her car. Then she got back behind the wheel. Melisande screamed and protested on how Deborah could just kill Loralee in cold blood. Deborah pointed ahead. "Look, Melisande, look!" Melisande couldn't believe that Loralee was easily lifting herself to her feet. "You saw me run her over, right?" Deborah asked. "Tell me you saw me run her over." "Yes," Melisande squeaked. Deborah floored the gas and hit Loralee again to knock her to the asphalt. She turned the car around and floored it to drive over her one more time. Melisande felt like she was going to throw up again, but managed to keep it down. Then she gasped when she saw Loralee easily getting right back up, again. "What the fuck?" she gasped. "It had to be that spell you read at the cemetery last Saturday night," Deborah told her. "You really did bring Loralee Hardy back to life. Now she won't fucking stay dead." Loralee was back to her feet and glaring at Deborah. "Fuck you! You ain't never putting me back in the ground!" She pointed right at Deborah now. "Your ass is mine!" Deborah floored the gas and hit Loralee one more time before she made it onto the road and drove away from the restaurant. Melisande couldn't believe it. "I really brought the Prom Queen Killer back?" "What else could it have been?" Deborah confirmed, then sighed. "I got a long story to tell you." Deborah told Melisande that she was romantically involved with Loralee years ago, and what happened with the deaths of her brother and mother. She explained how she had broken up with her because of what her brother Aiden had done. "I won't tell you about the events of the Strickfield prom last spring," Deborah finished. "You can find news about that everywhere online. I just know Loralee Hardy was killed last spring." "I really brought Loralee Hardy back to life? Melisande uttered in disbelief again, and her gut told her that Loralee had probably killed her parents. And now she won't die, Deborah added. Soon Deborah pulled into the parking lot of their high school. It's homecoming. We'll be safe here. When Deborah parked, they got out and went into the school at the side entrance. They didn't have much further to go to get to the gymnasium where the dance was. Suddenly, someone came up behind Deborah and held her as the knife went across her throat. Hit and run's a very serious crime, bitch, were the last words Deborah Lehman would ever hear as her blood sprayed everywhere before she finally dropped to the floor and died. Loralee couldn't believe her eyes. Oh my God! You killed Deborah! Why? Saturday night, homecoming. Reese Claiborne worked hard to make herself presentable again before coming to Shore City East High School for the homecoming dance. Out of her other 5 competitors nominated for the crown, she was obsessed with eliminating Melisande LaPaula. She was so angry that no matter how hard she tried to eliminate her, that skinny little goth stain refused to go away. Even after Ali Prince, her muscle girl, beat her up. Her girlfriend, Loralee Alexandra, nearly beat Reese within an inch of her life and cost her a tooth. But Reese still would not give up and was always scheming. She had a few more trump cards yet to play in her stacked deck. For Reese's next card, she knew exactly where the votes for Homecoming Queen were being tabulated. In fact, she easily picked the lock to the guidance office and went inside to find the telltale computer. Since nobody was inside, she sat down and saw no password protection enabled for the ancient computer that was still being used to tally votes for both homecoming and prom. Reese easily brought up the tabulation totals. She tightened her fists and squealed with fury when she saw the goth chick was the Cinderella winner and had several more votes than Reese. It wasn't even a close race between the two. The rich girl knew Melisande didn't have many friends and ascertained people only voted for her because the student body clearly hated Reese more. Reese smirked coldly as she worked the keyboard and changed the numbers to guarantee that she herself would be crowned the homecoming queen. She laughed and said, "I got you now, you fucking skank. I own your bony little ass now." Having finished her deed, she put everything back the way she found it and snuck back out of the guidance office, locking the door behind her. From there, she went back to the dance and mingled among the other students there, unaware that she had been seen, both entering and leaving. Melisande LaPaula pressed herself up against the wall as Valinda Bright came out of the shadows on her right. She was dressed for homecoming herself as she held the bloody knife she had just killed Deborah Lehman with. Loralee Hardy was on her left. Melisande gulped in terror when she saw how bloody her girlfriend looked. Even her dress was ripped and tattered in places. Loralee looked at Melisande. "I grabbed a few choice things under Deborah's car and let her bring me to homecoming." Then she looked at Valinda. "I guess now we all know who's been picking up my scraps, don't we?" Valinda screamed and ran right at Loralee. Melisande gulped as Valinda took Loralee down and stabbed her repeatedly. "Just fucking die!" Valinda shrieked insanely. Before long, Loralee stopped moving altogether. Spattered in Loralee's blood, Valinda got up and faced Melisande. Before the skinny goth girl could turn and run, Valinda pressed her body up against Melisandre's. "You look so lovely, my Melisande," Valinda whispered. "You can make absolutely anything in black look good on you, and you always smell so sweet. Anyway, I did all this for you, my love." Melisande gulped. I don't understand, Valinda." Valinda gazed into Melisandre's eyes. "Then I'll show you." Valinda gently pressed her lips to Melisandre's and kissed her. Her eyes were wide open and she felt her heart ready to explode in fear. She only kissed Valinda back to avoid getting killed. Eventually, Valinda pulled back and caressed the side of Melisandre's face. "I love you, Melisandre," she whispered. "I've loved you for so long. You're so beautiful." Melisandre's eyes were still wide open. "I never knew, Valinda." Suddenly, Valinda became furious. "Of course you didn't. What the fuck did she have that I don't, huh? How come you loved her and not me? Who was always there for you when you and your parents were always fighting?" She pressed the blade of the knife to Melisandre's throat. "Tell me, right now." Melisandre closed her eyes, gritted her teeth, and waited for Valinda to slice her throat. Valinda was still enraged. "But Loralee Alexandra wasn't enough for you either, was she? Now you're fucking Razor Rathman too? Just, what the fuck? You got such raging hormones, you gotta have one of each?" Melisandre tried shaking her head without getting her delicate throat skin cut. No, you're wrong, Valinda. I never had sex with Razor. I've never been sexual with any man." Valinda knew that Melisandre had been intimate with Loralee at least once. She had seen the two of them together at least one night when she had slipped into Melisandre's house. She removed the knife from her throat. "I love you so much, Melisandre. I'll never stop loving you." Valinda started to cry a little. "I didn't plan to fall in love with you, but I did. We've been in the same gym class for the last few years. Every time I'd see you naked when we'd shower, I kept having these feelings. I kept wanting you to be mine. I want to have sex with you so bad. You always felt so good when you held me, whenever we slept in my bed together. You remember? Back whenever you stayed at my house? When you were always afraid? You always smelled so wonderful. Your skin was always so amazingly soft. Choose me. Let me show you I can be everything to you." Then Valinda became furious again. "Will you fucking stop shaking? For goddammit to hell's sake, I'm not gonna hurt you," she growled now. "Stop being scared of me." "I can't help it," Melisandre choked. "You're crazy. I can't believe you viciously slaughtered all those people at the Golden Dragon, and you hit me there. It had to be you. I know Loralee or Razor would never have hurt me. How many people did you kill, Valinda? I'm sorry. I could never love you. I'm still deeply in love with Loralee. You'll have to kill me like you did her." Valinda began heaving at knowing that no matter what she did or how hard she tried, she would never win Melisandre's heart. She tightened her fists and screamed at the ceiling. When she finished, she glared at Melisandre. "No, you're in love with Loralee Alexandra and Arnie Rathman. You'd rather be in a threesome relationship with them than be with me." Suddenly, Valinda pushed the knife blade right back into Melisandre's throat. "Well, let me tell you something. If I can't have you, then no one can." Melisandre was so afraid, she thought she was going to die right there. She was so afraid that she lashed out screaming as she shoved Valinda to the floor. She screamed again as she turned and ran, not even realizing where she was going. "Come back here, you skinny little bitch!" Valinda roared crazily. As Melisandre rounded the corner, Valinda quickly tackled her. Melisandre was rational enough to remember she was never an athletic person, especially with platform heels on. Valinda turned Melisandre onto her back and sat on top of her. She raised the knife for the kill. Then she found herself truly admiring Melisandre in her black ball gown. She dropped the knife and began to fondle her. "I must touch you again," Valinda moaned. "I must feel your pretty flesh again." Melisandre breathed heavily in fear as Valinda touched her exposed skin, especially her face. She groaned when Valinda slowly licked her lips. Such beautiful, soft skin. So very, very soft. So pretty. Finally, Valinda stopped feeling up Melisandre. "I can't wait anymore. I must have you." Now Melisandre screamed like she never screamed in her life as Valinda tried ripping her dress open. For a brief moment, Melisandre was seeing a bright white light and thought she was finally dying. Of fright. She thought she was having a heart attack. After Melisande finally managed to calm down and come back to reality, she felt her hand being held and caressed. "Honey?" Melisandre's heart began to pound again, only now it was joined by the rapidly rising butterflies in her stomach. When she felt herself being eased off her back and into a sitting position, she saw the face of Loralee Hardy. Her dress was still worse for wear. Aside from that, she looked fully restored once again. "Are you okay, Melisande?" Loralee whispered, caressing the side of her face. Then Melisande shifted her gaze just past Loralee and saw Valinda's body lying in a pool of its own blood. A fire axe had split Valinda's head almost right down the middle. "You killed Valinda?" Melisande managed to ask Loralee. "When I revived and saw what Valinda intended to do to you, there was no compromise. I had to destroy her." Loralee began to cry. "She might have killed you. I could never let that happen, Melisande." Loralee squeezed her hand. "I love you too much." Melisande became calm again and took a deep breath. "Deborah told me who you really are." "Are you really Loralee Hardy? Did I really bring you back to life a week ago? Are you really dead?" Then she gulped. "And did you kill my parents?" Loralee looked Melisande in her eyes. "Let's answer your questions. Yes, I'm really Loralee Hardy. Very much yes, you did bring me back to life. Thank you from the bottom of my black heart for that, by the way. Am I undead? I don't know for sure, even after Valinda attacked me." She looked a little sad. "I know you saw Deborah hit me and run me over with her car again and again. I don't feel dead, but I honestly don't know if I am or not." She cried a little more. "I really don't want to lie to you. I am Loralee Alexandra, but those are my first and middle names. Yes, I am a killer. I can't change that part of who I am, but I would never, ever hurt you in any way." "And my parents?" Melisande asked quietly. Loralee sighed. "Yes, I killed your parents a week ago. I found your house and saw how your parents were treating you. I got so pissed off that I punished them for it. There. Now there are no more secrets between you and me." She stood up and helped Melisande to her feet. "If you hate me now and never want to see me again, just tell me to go away and I will. I'll leave you to be with Razor then. I'm sure he'll be a very good man for you. He's got a good heart." As Loralee moved to let go of Melisandre's hand, she felt the tiny hand tightening around her own. Loralee looked to Melisande for an explanation. "I hate to tell you, Loralee, but you have hurt me. You've hurt me really bad." Melisande cried a little to herself. Then she put the fingertips of her free hand on the pit of her stomach. "It won't stop hurting." She uttered a romantic sigh. "I can't be without you now." And before Loralee could respond, Melisande suddenly threw her arms around her and pressed her lips with hers. Loralee wrapped her up in kind and kissed her back. They shared a long, deep, passionate kiss, and Loralee knew she had finally won Melisande at last. When the girls came apart, they felt they weren't alone. A group made up of several couples were standing there and watching them kiss. Based on the way they were looking at the ghastly, gruesome scene before them, they clearly didn't approve. "Get out of here, you crazy bitches!" one of the girls snapped at them. Loralee smirked now. "You just say the word, my love." Melisande glanced at Loralee. "Would you show me how you killed my parents?" With pleasure, Loralee picked up Valinda's knife, pulled the axe from her head, and went at the group. The sounds of screams and brutal massacring filled the hallway. By the time Loralee was finished, she had littered the floor with 10 more bloody corpses. When Loralee returned to Melisande, she was soaked in their blood. Melisande smiled and put her hands on her beating heart. "You're beautiful, Loralee, Melisande gushed. You really killed people for me. My parents, too. I'll kill anyone who fucks with you, Melisande, Loralee promised her. I love you. Melisande came into Loralee's blood-drenched body so they could kiss again. She didn't care that the blood was wetting her, too. When they came apart, Loralee took her hand. You want to leave now? Or do you want to stay and see if you've won the homecoming crown? Melisande thought about it. Can we have just one dance together? I really want to dance with you. I want everybody in that gymnasium to know whom I'm in love with. And I love you, Loralee Hardy. Loralee smiled. More than anything, I want to take you somewhere and make love with you again. But who am I to deny your heart's desire? Yes, Melisande, I'll dance with you. Let's go. The unholy couple, as they would soon come to be called, went to the gymnasium and entered. Other couples saw them and either gasped or screamed in terror when they saw the blood on them, especially on Loralee. When the slow song began to play, the girls went to the center of the dance floor and began their unholy waltz. Only a few select students decided to leave the dance. At one point, Melisande saw Rhys Claiborne glaring at her. Melisande no longer cared what Rhys thought of her now. In the back of her mind, she dared Ali Prinz to come for her again, knowing that Loralee would most certainly kill her. The song ended. Loralee and Melisande were ready to leave. It was then when that magical moment had finally come. Come on, honey. You know you want to find out who won, Loralee said. Melisande nodded a little. We're already here. The faculty member who was on the stage gave a formal speech about the homecoming queen, though he was rather surprised that Rhys and Melisande were the only two nominated girls there, and that the other nominees were quite dead. The envelope in his hand was finally opened, and the name read, Melisande gasped. For a long moment, everything was silent all around her. Loralee had to shake her a little to bring her back to reality. You won! Melisande looked to Loralee in disbelief. Yes, you won! Loralee nodded to the stage. Let's go. I'll escort you up on stage so you can claim your crown, Your Highness. Loralee took Melisandre's hand and walked her up to the stage. On the way, the girl saw the bewildered look on Rhys Claiborne's face. Rhys couldn't possibly understand how she could have failed, even with changing the votes in her favor. She still had one final trump card to play to gain the crown. She roared and rushed up on the stage. She brushed past Loralee and snatched the crown as it was about to be placed on Melisandre's head. As Rhys turned to leave, she was greeted by a most peculiar surprise. Ali Prinz was standing right there, holding hands with Arnie Razor Rathman. Ali picked up the microphone and addressed the crowd. I just want to announce that Rhys Claiborne cheated. My new boyfriend Razor and me saw her break into the guidance office and change the vote. Ali snatched the crown from Rhys and took it to Melisande. Looking down at her, she said into the microphone, You won the crown, Melisande. You're the new homecoming queen. Ali carefully placed the crown on Melisandre's head. Loralee looked into her girlfriend's face and saw her bright smile. Melisande saw Rhys pointing right at Ali and read her lips. Rhys was calling Ali everything but a child of God for her betrayal. Ali simply grabbed Rhys with her free hand and headbutted her right in the face to give her a hell of a bloody nose. Cheers erupted from the crowd as Rhys held her nose, blood dripping through her fingers and down her dress. Melisande saw Ali smile at Razor as he caressed the side of her face. She was glad Razor had finally found his someone special in Ali. It was even more evident when they wrapped their arms around each other and kissed. When they finished, Razor kissed her again. Then he raised his finger to Ali. She smiled and let him go for a moment. When Razor reached Loralee and Melisande, he wondered why the two of them had red on them. Hey, listen, I just want to tell you both that if you two want to go on being a couple, then you don't have to worry about me no more. He raised his hands in front of him. I know what I told you before, Melisande, and I guess I still do have feelings for you. He glanced over his shoulder. You know, Ollie and I have been fighting for years. Who'd have thought there was really something there with her and me? Melisande didn't seem upset. If anybody can keep her honest, you can. It's okay, Razor, really. I'm not mad. Razor still wondered why Loralee was dripping crimson. Just the same, he asked her. Hey, listen, we cool? Loralee knew deep down she still wanted to hate him, but she respected the man way too much to kill him now. Yeah, Razor, we're cool. You know what? Why don't you leave here and take Ollie somewhere decent? Razor nodded. Sounds like a good idea. Thanks, Loralee. Guess we'll see you both at school on Monday. After the new couple left the gym, Melisande and Loralee looked to see Rhys leaving the gym as well. I want that bitch, Loralee told her. For you. Melisande smiled. I really don't deserve you. But she stopped her. Honey, she ain't worth it. In fact, I think I got a better idea. Then she motioned for Loralee to lower herself a little so she could whisper in her ear. Loralee listened. When Melisande was finished, Loralee faced her and nodded. Before the girls could walk off the stage, they were greeted by a wave of boos. Actually, they were directed more at Melisande. You won already! Get off the stage! You don't even deserve it! You only won because there were only two of you! Skank! Go back to hell where you belong! Melisande was the angriest she had ever been as the girls made their way down the floor and walked out of the gym as the music began again. Melisandre's anger turned to excitement in being able to witness Loralee's hunt. In fact, it hadn't taken Loralee long to find Rhys in the closest restroom to the gym. When Rhys saw the blood-spattered Melisande and the blood-soaked Loralee coming in, she got scared. Oh God, get the fuck away from me! Can't do that, Loralee told her. I promised you to my queen here. All you ever did was shit on her time and time again. Well, that stops right here and now. She paused. Now, Rhys, if you do what we say, we're promising you right here and now, you don't have to die here tonight. Rhys listened and was quick to agree to their terms. The three girls left the restroom and went back to the gym. Loralee nudged Rhys's arm for her to go up on stage. The three girls went up. Melisande picked up the microphone and spoke some strange words into it. Suddenly, the music stopped. Everybody turned to look at her now. When the waves of boos and negative comments came at Melisande again, she was ready for them this time. She was about to show them just how far she had indeed come along with her black magic. Melisande spoke some more of those strange words. The crowd quickly became quiet when they saw a brief flash of eerie red light on the walls and doors. The crowd now looked at Melisande for an explanation. Seriously, fuck all of you, Melisande yelled. For years, you've all been giving me a hard time. She turned and suddenly pointed to Rhys. Especially you. She turned back to the crowd. I never did so much as a fucking thing to any of you. Well, you know what? The people up in the very front saw her smile, an evil smile. You all belong to us now. She handed Loralee the microphone. Take it away, my love. Loralee smiled just as evil as Melisande. Congratulations, motherfuckers. You all get to be part of a homecoming dance people are going to be talking about for years. Just like my prom last spring at Strickfield High. Then she pointed right at Rhys. And you just stay right up here. You get the best seat in the house. Loralee turned to Melisande. My gift to you, my queen. Melisande began to cry a little and said into the microphone, like I said, I don't deserve you. Loralee and Melisande's lips glowed the same eerie red as they shared an unholy kiss between them. When they finished, Loralee raised her knife and sprang into the crowd. From there, Loralee killed many students and teachers alike. As the crowd tried to escape, they found every door would not open. Also, there were no windows for them to break to escape. It would only be a matter of time before Loralee Hardy would catch up with all of them, thus creating a new event. In fact, only one student would survive the event and would call it the homecoming from hell. That student was Reese Claiborne. Loralee and Melisande had indeed kept their word. Reese had done her part by being the sole survivor to tell the tale of Loralee Hardy and her queen, Melisande LaPaula, the unholy couple. Loralee had an even higher body count than her prom from hell back in Strickfield before she finally returned to Melisande, even bloodier than before, and escorted her queen out of Shore City East High School, never to return again. Principal Theodore Gastor couldn't believe what he had heard about the homecoming dance. He had assigned other members of the faculty to conduct the event, not wanting to be there himself. In fact, he congratulated himself on both not being at the dance and being right about Melisande LaPaula all along. However, his reputation would be even further tarnished when the school board told him that he would continue to be the principal of Shore City East High School once it had reopened. People who knew or recognized him kept taunting him about being the principal of the school where the homecoming from hell took place, or that the unholy couple were his former students. As with the prom from hell and the prom night of the dead from Strickfield High, the homecoming from hell from Shore City East High would also become a new Ohio legend that would both be added to the Strickfield University's website among the other legends already there, and another tale to be told on Halloween nights, especially since many homecoming nights often take place during October. When it came to Reese Claiborne, she left Shore City right after graduation in growing fear that the unholy couple might go back on their word and come for her anyway. As for Loralee Hardy and Melisande LaPaula, they are still out and about to this very day. Tomorrow, Loralee gets her second chance. But can someone who's already died and killed really rewrite their story? Or is fate already written in blood? Don't miss part 4 of Deadly Second Chances, dropping tomorrow right here on Weekly Spooky. So make sure you're subscribed, and remember, you've been warned.